What's up, everybody? It's your boy Attikis coming to you again after another New York Giants loss. This time against the Chicago Bears, 24-20 in Chicago. A game that the Giants controlled for 54 plus minutes. Probably should have won the game and found new and creative ways to lose. This is what the Giants have done for the better part of this season. They are now 2-8, 2-8 going into week 11. Next week they're going to be playing the Green Bay Packers at home, likely without their superstar quarterback Jackson Dart. They're already down Malik Neighbors. They don't have any Cam Scatterbo. I don't know if Paulson Deble's going to be in the lineup. Just a depleted team. Micah McFadden's got to bring him up also. Just a depleted team, underperforming. At times they look really good. In fact, in the losses, in 7 of the Giants' losses, the Giants have performed at a very high level, looked really good, but fell apart at the end to some degree or another. 4 of those losses, the Giants had 10-point leads and somehow gave them up to lose the game. 3 of those 10-point losses that the Giants surrendered all happened with 6 minutes or fewer to go in a game. It has just become so incredibly frustrating. I don't know if I should say it just is frustrating. You know, if you've been a Giants fan as long as I have, and I've been a Giants fan for 47 years at this point, it is frustrating to be a fan of this organization. The organization's given me many reasons to smile and cheer and be happy, but the past 10 years, it has not been pleasant, with the exception of one. That was a pretty good year when Daniel Jones, Brian Dable, Joe Shane came in, and with Saquon Barkley, got to mention him, led us to a playoff win in Minnesota, a game that nobody thought they would win. But ever since then, it's just been bad. It's been bad. I try to find the positives, and the Giants have given us a lot of positives to talk about, but so many more negatives that it becomes frustrating. I feel like we go through therapy sessions quite regularly as Giants fans. But before I get into all of these other things, I'm going to ask you guys to please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you're notified every time we drop some new content. I also want to mention that I appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving us. We've got a lot of engagement that we're seeing online, a lot of comments coming in. Oh my God. Listen, there are people who are calling us delusional fans. There are a lot of delusional fans out there. I try to give a really fair and measured approach to the way I see things unfolding on the field, some of the things that I hear about in the media, and my thoughts on those different topics. And my thoughts are my thoughts. And I think that I do a good job of not looking at everything through blue lenses, but looking at it for what it is, right? If a player isn't performing at the standard that we need him to, I'm going to say something about it. If a coach isn't delivering the type of personnel decisions, coaching efforts, training, development of players that I think we need to see from our team, I'm going to say that also. I'm also going to point out when they do well. And I think that that's the approach that we need to have. I don't want to see things um, in a way that is unrealistic, but I do want to see us start to win games. I think that the Giants, as an organization, needs to make some changes. And I really think that the team is teaching you, is telling you the areas where you are deficient, and we need to see some things change or move in a different direction, and we need to pay attention to that. So there's no delusion in that. And also some of the thought processes that I have that make me make a suggestion or a player or a coach. And right now we're talking a lot about coaches, players, talking about players that we think we want to pick up in free agency or in the draft. But right now we're talking about coaches because that is a glaring problem with the New York Giants. when you bring up a coach like John Gruden, who historically has done some good things in the NFL, but he is currently suing the NFL, and there were open cases against him and the league surrounding his tenure as a head coach. Why would we even bring him up as a possible option to coach the New York Football Giants? Now, if there weren't all of these different legal issues that are currently brewing, maybe that would be a discussion. But you can't even entertain an individual who's got all of those different problems. I can't even imagine bringing in. People were saying we can't draft Shador Sanders because of all of the other stuff that will come with him. It would be much worse with a John Gruden. So I get people sometimes, and usually because I hashtag different teams, the team that we play that week, about some of my takes on the games. And there's some really colorful people out there. Let's just say that. Some people disagree with what I have to say, and that's fine. You can disagree with anything I have to say, but I'm going to give it to you the way that I see it. And the way that I see it, I think is pretty objective and measured. So, but as for this game, it was a tough start to the game for the Giants. You know, they continue to have this really vanilla approach to opening drives where they'll have a single back formation, whether Dart's lined up or center or he's in the shotgun, and they try to run the ball right down the middle, trying to hit that A gap to see if they can get something done. And while the line has performed well in pass pro, I would say more in pass pro, they have not created a lot of lanes for the running backs to go through. At least they haven't been consistent in that regard. So the Chicago Bears did a really good job of plugging those holes and keeping Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary to minimal games, if not losing yards to start the game. And the Giants just kept going to that same play to start drives where they would run the ball, and it was very ineffective. And it wasn't until Jackson Dart and I guess Kafka started calling plays where we're going to start passing this ball because the run just isn't there. And they became real pass heavy. And that's what you want to teach your team to do if you're a defense, right? Like shut down the run, make them one dimensional, turn them into, put them in situations where they're forced to pass the ball. And then we attack, 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 right? And that's what the Bears' plan was. But Jackson Dart did a very good job at finding open receivers down the field. And I really need to say this. Our receivers today, between Theo Johnson and Darius Slayton, did not disappoint. There were a couple of drop passes yesterday. One drop pass in particular, I remember, to Daniel Bellinger. There was another one, and I don't necessarily blame Daniel Bellinger for that. It was catchable but difficult. There was another errant pass that was thrown to Tyrone Tracy Jr. There was another one that was difficult to catch for Wan'Dale Robinson. But by and large, Jackson Dart did a very good job of getting the ball to his receivers. And Darius Slayton, I, I look at this particular pass from Jackson Dart, a better catch by Darius Slayton than pass, but Darius Slayton with this one-handed Statue of Liberty catch, highly impressive. That's a pass that Darius Slayton would normally not come down with, but he found a way to bring a cold, hard, and maybe wet ball in with his fingertips. Look at this concentration and focus. While pushing off a defender, he's able to make a big time catch to keep a drive going. I thought that was very impressive on his part because, like I said, Darius Slayton has become wildly unreliable lately, but he did not disappoint yesterday. He did what we needed him to do. And then later on, Darius, oh, by far Darius Slayton's best game of the season. He caught almost everything that was thrown his way. Uh, Jackson Dart got the ball to him several times. I have the stats here. He had 4 receptions on 4 targets, and he caught everything thrown his way. Look at this particular catch. He did the Statue of Liberty, caught this ball high and outside with his left hand, one handed grab. He couldn't even get both hands on the ball. It was definitely a better catch than it was pass. And this is what he gave us yesterday. And it feels like such a wasted performance because he had the game, I would say, probably say, of his career outside of that 3 touchdown reception game he had during his rookie season. He played extremely well. He had 4 targets, 4 receptions, 89 yards, averaged 22.3 yards on each reception. And if you look at this second play, Jackson Dart did a good job of finding him in the void in the secondary. But had Jackson Dart led him a little bit and Darius Slayton did not have to come back for that pass, he would have likely walked into the end zone for a touchdown. It was a really good pass, a little bit underthrown, good route by Darius Slayton, finding the opening in the zone. Look at him. He comes over. This guy doesn't know if he's got protection on the back end or what. And Darius Slayton catches the ball. Jackson Dart finds him, and it's a big gain down the right sideline. So excellent pass, excellent catch. Darius Slayton did a good job. Theo Johnson is another one. He had 8 targets, 7 receptions, 75 yards. He had a really good game as well. And he had some very difficult catches in coverage. Jackson Dart does a great job of scrambling out of the pocket. He was getting pressure. Theo Johnson helps his quarterback out by finding the opening in the zone. And here, in the heavy traffic, Jackson Dart throws this ball, and Theo Johnson knows he's going to get hit by the safety, and he still comes down with the catch. That was a really good performance by these Giants tight ends and wide receivers yesterday. Daniel Bellinger had also got in the mix. Devin Singletary had 3 catches for 53 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson, he had 11 targets, 6 receptions for 62 yards. Tyrone Tracy Jr. had a reception. Gunnar Olszewski was targeted twice, and those, I think, were 2 of the worst passes that Jackson Dart threw all game long. And those passes, I think, they came after Jackson Dart took that shot, fumbled the ball, and he came back in the game, but he did not look good after that. This was the play that changed the game for the Giants. The Giants were driving. They were in scoring distance. Jackson Dart fumbles the ball, suffers a concussion on this play. Chicago Bears comes up with it deep in their own territory to 21-yard line. But on this particular play is when the game changed. Jackson Dart no longer was able to continue. And as a result of that, Russell Wilson came into the game. Russell Wilson comes into the game, and it's a little disappointing, like I talked about earlier, because you just feel like the game is over and you're going to lose. And ultimately, that's what happened. I won't say it was Russell Wilson's fault that the game took the trajectory that it did. It was more on the defense. However, just another game that the Giants should have won. It was difficult to see him go down, Jackson Dart, and we don't know how long he's going to be out at this point, but probably at least a week or two. And when he comes back, we'll welcome him back. But it's going to be tough sledding moving forward without the rookie, as he's been playing well. So once again, the Giants looked good for 3.5 quarters, maybe a little bit more. They had the lead 20-10, surrendered it again. The defense continued to put heavy, heavy pressure on Caleb Williams. And I, for one, am not a huge Caleb Williams fan. I think he's okay, but I think there's a little bit of overratedness to him also. Chicago Bears fans think the world of him, as they should. He's their starting quarterback. But I just haven't seen from Caleb. And maybe it was because I don't think he's had the quality of coaching that he's getting under Ben Johnson up till now. So his tape hasn't shown me that he's been one of those really reliable quarterbacks who's going to deliver like maybe a championship one day. But hey, Bears fans seem to love him. He did enough with his legs yesterday. The Giants' pass rush was really good. They had like 12 pressures yesterday. They had their hands on him several times to bring him down for a sack, and they could not bring him down. I dare say if they were able to bring him down on just a couple of those sacks, that would have changed the play calling, which ultimately would have resulted in turnovers on possessions or the Bears punting the ball away. But they did not bring him down. It was extremely frustrating to watch as a Giants fan. The defense gave up 2 late touchdowns. They couldn't hold the line. And they could not contain on the edges. So Caleb Williams found a way on 2 late possessions to scramble to the outside on plays where he was hurried by the pass rush and within the grasp of getting sacked, and found a way with his legs to score the points that they needed. One of them, he threw a pass to a wide open O'Doones, who the Giants were so focused on a receiver to the right side of the end zone, I forget which player it was, that they left O'Doones wide open in the middle, and Caleb Williams found him. So kudos to the Bears for understanding that the Giants is going to find a way to give you the game. You just got to take it. They took it. They did what they needed to do to get the lead and then to keep us from scoring to end the game. Russell Wilson got the ball back with like 1:47 or something like that on the clock. Plenty of time for any other team in the National Football League to go down and get a game-winning score, but not for the Giants. Not this season. Not under this coaching staff. Not with this defense. It is not going to happen. But any other team would have converted that 1:47 into an impressive scoring drive to defeat the Giants, but the Giants can't do that to another team. Very, very disappointing. Which leads me right into, guess who? Head coach Brian Dable once again. I think that he should have been fired immediately following the conclusion of this game. And I don't say that because I don't value humanity, and I think about, this is a guy with a family and all of that. I value, listen, I'm talking about it strictly from the perspective of he is severely underperforming. In any other job in this country, any other job where you underperform as bad as Brian Dable has underperformed, 390 something days it's been since we've won a road game. We've given up 4 10-point leads this year in games that we should have won. 4 of them. You kept your quarterback out there knowing he was throwing passes that one pass that he threw to Olszewski should have been an interception in the red zone. And if Olszewski didn't turn into a corner, a defender on that particular play, that would have been an interception. And then he threw a second pass to Olszewski that was just as bad as the first one. So Brian Dable had to pull him out at this point. Maybe it was the league's fault for not seeing that this guy might have had a concussion. Something was wrong, and he shouldn't have been out there. But once we saw Russell Wilson in there, we knew it was over. And that's another. Why is Russell Wilson going in and not Jameis Winston? Jameis Winston, I believe, at this point, gives us a better opportunity to win a game than Russell Wilson. So are you really trying to win games, Brian Dable? Are you? Or are you trying to make sure that you just add padding to the reasons why so many people want you fired as the head coach of the New York Giants? Too many missed opportunities. And that's coaching, man. We're not coaching these players well. We see it. Joe Shane, he's another one. He is not giving the Giants enough talent to continue to develop players or developable players so that we can win games. Why are we keeping him? I think they are two arms of the same body, Dable and Shane. I'm not sure that I can trust one more than the other. If I had to pick one that we were going to keep, it would probably be Joe Shane, only because even though he's had some crazy misses with draft picks and has expended a lot of draft capital on busts, Jalen Hyatt, Evan Neal, Dante Banks, even though he's given us major failures on these guys, he's also hit on a couple. And I'm not even going to talk about some of these free agents that turned into just basket cases. And you can't really blame Shane for the Darren Waller situation, but come on, man. Like, how much more do we need to see? How many more other teams do we need to see figuring this out well before we have? We're in year 10 of this already. So here's my thought on the general managers. I'm going to start with the general manager situation. I think as far as the general manager goes, Brandon Brown should probably be elevated to the GM position. And I say that because Brandon Brown has been under Howie Roseman, which has proven to be probably, he'll go into the NFL Hall of Fame as a general manager. I don't know if there even is such a thing as a GM in the Hall of Fame, but if there isn't, he should be. There should be, and he should be the face of it. And Brandon Brown worked as assistant general manager to Howie Roseman, so he understands how to craft these deals in a way that allows you to maintain your current talent, acquire new talent, and to identify the talent that you need to be complementary in the areas of your team where it is sorely needed. He's seen how to do that firsthand. He's also seen some of the best and the worst of Joe Shane. Those are teachable moments, things that you learn that you should not do, and things that you learn that you should do. I think Brandon Brown would do a great job, and I've watched him and looked at some of his interviews and his thought processes and what he looks at when he's identifying talent and how he grades and measures those different prospects. And I liked what I've seen. So I think he would be a good fit to slide right into that position. And it eliminates you having to go on this extensive general manager search and get it wrong again. The other thing I think should happen is Brian Dable should not be the head coach of the New York Giants before this next game on Sunday. In fact, today, if they haven't fired him already, they should be on their way to his office to relieve him of his duties. I say that because you got nothing to lose at this point. You get rid of the guy now, you're letting other qualified head coaching candidates know that that New York Giants head coaching position is available. Not that you're going to violate any rules in contacting different options or prospects before you're allowed to, but it puts them on alert. Their peripherals are telling them, hey, that's an attractive job over there in New York. Look at some of the pieces that they've got on offense. And I don't want to hear any of that talk about you need Brian Dable because you don't want to mess up the process that's happening with Jackson Dart. Look what he's done already. He ain't the only person that can coach quarterbacks. He is not. There are some other viable candidates out there, and they need, I believe, to fire him today so that these other people who might be good head coaching candidates, I'm not talking about retreads who have proven that they can't win in this league. I'm talking about good head coaching candidates that will help to deliver us a winning football team. And the same holds true for the defensive coordinator position, which is woefully inept. I can't even understand how you surrender so many leads in so many games in the same season, and you do it by making the same mistakes over and over and over again. I don't understand how you do that. The Giants must be the most cursed team since, at first it was the New York Knicks. Now it's the New York Giants. They got whatever curse was on the New York Knicks, which seems to have been removed at this point, has somehow infected the New York Giants organization because they're going through the same craziness that the Knicks went through for years. Now the Knicks are a very attractive organization. Players want to play there. Coaches want to coach there. Fans love what they're seeing. Shit, fans of other teams love what they're seeing from the New York Knicks. This is what we need to do with the New York Giants. We've got the talent already. We just need the right leader of men in place to bring this team to a point where they can actually win some games. We already know they know how to score. We know they know how to put up points. They've given us extremely watchable football at least on the offensive side of the ball, but they frustrated the hell out of us on defense. Shane Bowen got to go. We need a Jim Mora type of defense here. We need somebody like a Brian Flores and Antonio Pierce, a no-nonsense leader of men to bring out the dogs and the dogs that we got. We don't have that right now. Shane Bowen, I believe his self-esteem has trickled into him to a degree where there is no resolving this for him. Certainly not for the players. You look at the post-game interviews with these players, they are dejected. How do you continue to find a new way to say that we sucked week after week after week? And that's what the post-game press conferences are. There is some accountability that these guys are saying. They're talking about we got to do better. We got to tackle better. I should say they did tackle much better in this game, except when it came to sacking the quarterback. But tackling players in the open field, they did a much better job this week. Tay Banks was Tay Banks again. Tay Banks was giving up penalties and first downs and illegal contact and just free yards. Free yards. He gave out more benefits to the Chicago Bears than the government did to SNAP recipients in the past month. That's Tay Banks. I don't even know how Brian Dable, Shane Bowen are still coaching this team this week. I don't know. In the meantime, elevate Mike Kafka to the offensive coordinator. That's what I think you need to do. Get rid of Shane Bowen, and I don't know who you put into the DC position right now. Elevate one of the DB coaches or the defensive line coach to that position in the meantime, but start the process now. There is no advantage to keeping them in place now. It gives the fans a little bit of hope. That in fact will feel like a bigger win if the Giants than it would have if the Giants would have beat the Chicago Bears this past weekend, in my opinion. So it shows accountability from the New York Giants ownership that they see and hear what is happening. And it needs to stop now. So, and I don't know what was happening. I need to say this also. I know I went off on a tangent about the coaches, but Jermaine Illuminor was lost out there yesterday. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but Jermaine Illuminor, who's supposed to anchor the right side of that line, he gave up 2 clean sacks on the quarterback yesterday. He didn't even touch or notice that, what's his name, Chauncey Gardner, was coming off the edge right at Jackson Dart and popping him, which, by the way, may be one of the plays that resulted in him getting that concussion. I don't know, but what was going on with him yesterday? You cannot leave your quarterback exposed in that way. And he did it not once, but 2 times. It was terrible. It gave me flashbacks of what our offensive line looked like 2-3 years ago. That should never happen. So I don't know what was happening. So I don't even know what's going to happen at this point. My take is the head coach, defensive coordinator, both need to be terminated immediately. We need to move on from them and salvage what we can from the rest of the season. I don't know that I'm a big fan of tanking the season to look for the best available talent coming out of the draft, because if they're going to keep Joe Shane, I don't think he's capable of identifying the best talent. And honestly, some of the best jewels that we've seen in the drafts have been in the middle rounds, not in the first round. I think we hit with Jackson Dart. I think we hit with Cam. He was a 4th round draft pick. I think in Bo, who was picked up in the 5th round, is going to turn out to be a really good player for us. But I don't have any faith that Joe Shane knows what he's doing. I think that Brandon Brown needs to be our guy. I think you get rid of Brian Dable and you insert Kafka into that spot for the remainder of the season. I don't know if you put Andre Patterson in charge of the defense moving forward for the remainder of the season, but Shane Bowen's key card should not work at MetLife anymore. It should not work. I'm tired of it at this point. I have nothing else to say. Jackson Dart is the lone bright spot who won't be available for the next couple of games. Looking at his stats right now, this kid has 1,417 passing yards. He's got 10 passing touchdowns. He's got 7 rushing touchdowns and a 93.5 QBR. He is the brightest spot, aside from Malik Neighbors and maybe Saquon Barkley, this team has seen in a very long time. And I also want to say that if it weren't for Tay Banks, Dexter Lawrence would have had a sack today. And you know who else would have had a sack today? Abdul Carter. But they don't, because Tay Banks committed a penalty on each of those sacks, negating them and going in favor of the Chicago Bears, giving them first downs instead of huge losses on 2 sacks by these guys. I am so over this guy. I don't know why he still has a uniform either. He should be a healthy scratch every week. He is that bad. He's that bad. I mean, I want to hear from y'all. What do you think is the first, or should be the first order of business for the New York Giants today, on Monday? What should the Giants do first? Should they retain Brian Dable? Do you see any upside or value in keeping him as the head coach of the New York Giants for the remainder of the season? Do you think they should fire him before the bye week? Do you think they should keep him? What about Joe Schoen? How are you feeling about Joe Schoen? Do we like what he's doing? Do we think he has more hits than misses? Do we think that he's given the head coach enough tools to build a winning roster? Do we think that? Do we think that his direction that he wants to bring the team in is the right one after 4 years of seeing the pieces that he's delivered? Do we think he's the right guy? I think universally we all agree that Shane Bowen is not the guy. But if that's not the case, who do you want to see in his place? Who do you think would be a good fit for the New York Giants to have as their defensive coordinator? And if that person, first of all, if they're going to be available, and do you think the job is attractive enough for them? I think there are a lot of options out there. And who would you like to see for the head coach? Please don't say John Gruden. Please don't say. I like John Gruden, but he's not an option. He's not a viable option. Who do you guys want to see as the front office, head coach, and defensive coordinator, maybe even offensive coordinator? Maybe you're not feeling Kafka. I happen to think Kafka's doing a good job. I think Shea Tierney's doing a good job. But I don't think our DC or our HC or our GM are the right people to be in our organization. So that's it for me now. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, by the way, don't forget, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're on our way to 500 subscribers. We're gaining new subscribers every day. In fact, we've gained over 140, close to 150 subscribers in the last 2 weeks, which is awesome. I guess some people want to hear what we got to say, so I'm loving it. Thanks again, guys. This is Attikis signing off for the NYG Blue Zone. We'll see you later this week when we do our pregame show for the Green Bay Packers game. We may actually do another show in between to seriously start looking at some defensive coordinator and head coaching opportunities, people that we want to see run the New York Giants. So thanks again for joining us. Everybody have a good day.
Yeah, a lot of girls probably crying from my old high school. Look, they see me everywhere they go, I probably would too. Look, crossed over to the Jordan man like I'm Michael. Yeah, eating blessings so much I might need lipo. Yeah, tailored for the doves like I'm walking in chucks. Yeah, it's just in this plan, man, I see all y'all shook. Look, knew that I was great ever since I was a rook. Man, all y'all singles making me look good. Okay, praise to the Most High, yeah, that's Jesus. Look, but when it come to this rap thing, I can't lose. Yeah, back-to-back number ones, that's the thing greats do. Yeah, tell them boys that ain't nothing I can't do. It's my year. It's my year.